Let's get into it. We've got Deon Shekuza that's in the studio. He's part of the flagship program of President Obama's Young African Leaders Initiative. For short, we call it YALI, isn't it, Deon?
So,
all right, let's get into it. We're talking Earth Day. I'm telling you, the ordinary man on the street right now probably wondering, but Earth Day for who? Earth Day for what? Why should I care? Perhaps you can tell us just the basics when it comes to Earth Day. What is it that we're celebrating, or what is it that we're commemorating when it comes to Earth Day?
Okay, simply put, Earth Day is an event that was started in 1962 by Senator Gayland Nelson.
Yeah.
He's an American Texas, Wisconsin senator.
Okay.
And right about that time, the world was still in the post-war period, and he felt that it's time that we push the environmental agenda into the political scene.
Yeah.
And since then, he then teamed up with President Kennedy, and they've been pushing it for a while, but it wasn't that successful up until 1969. And from 1969, students were then brought on board, and then they used the exuberance and energy of the students as they were anti-war.
Yeah.
And they used that to push the environmental scene into action. And since then, it's been adopted all over internationally. And now we're in the 46th year of the anniversary.
Of the anniversary of Earth Day itself. It's 34 gone after 7 a.m. This year, you calling it, early on I said trees. It's actually forests for Earth,
yes.
For the Earth itself. Why the theme? What is that that you guys want to highlight with this year's theme being Forest for the Earth?
Okay, simply put, the forests are very important to the environment. They both provide fresh oxygen for us. They also provide a catchment of water. And without the forest, we cannot really combat climate change. And deforestation has been a problem currently worldwide and globally.
Yeah.
And that is one reason why Earth Day is choosing the theme of forests to be the main topic to discuss around the Earth topic.
Now, earlier in the week, we reported that President Hage Geingob will depart for New York. This was before he departed, so we used the past, the future tense, and we said that he'll be in New York. But by today, and one of the main reasons why he is going to New York was to attend the United Nations General Assembly's high-level thematic debate on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. While there, he will also attend to other major engagements, which will include the signing ceremony of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, which is happening today.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps you can highlight that for us when it comes to the PC Change Agreement. What is that, and what does that mean for me as the next Namibian?
Okay, the Climate Change Agreement, which was adopted in 2015 last year, December, is then going to be formally entered into agreement this year. It's a legally binding agreement which then dictates that countries commit INDCs, which are contributed, determined contributions that they decided that they can use to combat climate change, for example.
Yeah.
Now, in Namibia's case, our country is the driest south of sub-Saharan Africa. That's one. And secondly, Namibia is negatively impacted by climate change, or rather, let's say the whole of Africa, because our response to climate change impacts is much slower due to financial capabilities, technical, and such. So, for example, if an earthquake were to strike Namibia or even a sea level rise, it'll take us much longer to respond as compared to Japan, who have the needs to do that. And then it's been agreed that the developed nations, who are mainly responsible for climate change with the carbon emissions since the Industrial Revolution in the 1970s, then were tasked to contribute financially and technically, so that they can help the developing nations or those impacted by climate change to fight. This is also under the theme of climate justice. And it's then been agreed that every year they're going to put down $100 billion to a fund.
As a collective, as countries collective,
yes, exactly, as developed countries. And it's going to be under the Green Global Climate Fund. And Namibia is then applying for us to be a secretariat within the Southern African region or Africa, so that countries can apply through us as well. And this is one reason why the president went there, so that he can go and beat that, so that we can win it. Last saw South Korea, they got the first one, but we definitely have a better chance to get this
of getting this one. I mean, it's especially what you mentioned now, with climate change being evident with us. I mean, it's very evident with us, especially Southern Africa, with the El Nino that we're struggling with. But hold the thought, just continuing with this right after this.
Satisfaction guaranteed. Breakfast 100. Breakfast 100. Breakfast 100.
But I guess I really don't care.
Breakfast 100. Breakfast 100. 6 to 9 a.m.
Waking up, getting you to wedding style. Everybody's getting one.
100.
I mean, I hear Deon speaking about Earth Day and all the significant progress that we are going to make or are envisaged to make with the Paris Climate Agreement, of which we will be a signatory to. But as the ordinary Namibian, what is expected of me? What must I do? I mean, I hear you on radio right now. I'm probably driving the taxi, or I'm mowing my lawn. What is expected of me? What is that Deon and the rest of the world is pleading me to do?
Okay, the most remarkable thing about climate change is that the solutions, or rather the impacts, are scientific, but the solutions are easily to do stuff at home. For example, you could start with your waste. That is something that is critical to our environment. The plastics, all these other extra hazardous waste that the environment cannot clean up after itself. Secondly, you could also cut down on your fuel emissions. For example, you start with your electrical appliances in your house. You make sure that you buy appliances that are energy efficient.
And this is things that we speak about every day, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, yeah, continue, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, most people think that climate change is nothing to do with me. It's happening all somewhere else in the world, and I do not need to be worried about that. But that is the negative perception that has been pushed by the climate change deniers. Climate change is real, climate change is happening, and you don't need to believe in climate change, because it's like saying, I believe oxygen is what human beings need to breathe. Obviously, we need that. Climate change is just exacerbated by the activities we do.
Yeah.
And as an ordinary citizen, we could start by educating each other on climate change impacts. We could also start with the younger generation, because it's their future that they're going to inherit. And especially in Namibia's case, we are a very dry country already, and we're already seeing the impacts of climate change in terms of our water supplies. In the central part of Namibia, we've seen a low rainfall into the dams, and that translates over into less water available to be then available to the cities like Windhoek, Rehoboth, and Okahanya. And then in the north, we're then already seeing these intensifying droughts that are coming in pairs of 3 and so forth. And the problem with the droughts is that Namibia's agriculture is rain-fed.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Go ahead. So yeah.
No, no, you're answering it actually.
Okay. So that means basically we wait on the rain to feed our crops, and up to 70% of our people, directly or indirectly, depend on the environment. And what makes it a bit difficult is that for those that live in urban areas like Windhoek or Auckland Park and so forth, you do not see the impacts directly, because you go to Spa and you go to Pick and Pay to go buy your food. Whereas somebody in the north or somebody in a village area, their Pick and Pay is that crop field right there. And when it does not rain, they don't have stock. So climate change is as serious as it can be. That's why our government has bidded for $33 billion That's the amount we require in order to effectively mitigate the impacts of climate change and also reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 89%. That means our transport sector has to improve. As you've seen recently, we've seen some new buses coming in.
Yeah, that are environmentally friendly after, because that was one of the questions that were posted to the city of Windhoek of these new buses. Are they environmentally friendly? Studies were done and the papers were furnished to prove that no, the buses are environmentally friendly in terms of the emissions, which was going to bring me to my next question. Do we have that problem in Namibia, according to your studies with the Yali group? Do we have that problem of companies just blatantly ignoring the seriousness of climate change by perhaps illegal wasteful dumping and harmful carbon emissions?
Yes, definitely. Namibia, I've seen personally for myself, if you go travel around the city, you'll find all these rubbles of waste outside yards, that's one. Secondly, we do not also have a good understanding of why we should keep our environment clean. We believe it's the municipality's job, so I'm just gonna throw the bag there, or I'm just gonna dump something out of my car. But this entire planet is built on a food chain. It's an ecosystem, and one thing has an effect or impact on something else. So with that being said, in Namibia, companies and individuals themselves do not really take the cleanliness that serious. That is why Namibia has seen itself drop from cleanest city in Africa, or rather Windhoek.
Yeah, and losing it to who's it that took the crown now? I read that report like 4 weeks ago. I'll get it for you. I just totally slipped my mind. Yeah. So you're saying that's why we dropped the status, because you know what? As a matter of fact, in terms of losing the ball and dropping the ball, in terms of being the cleanest city in the country, on the continent, people actually thought no, it's the plastic bags that we throw around. What in actual fact is actually the mass wastage, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. What impacts our environment the worst is that there is no regulation of waste. It's totally left up to the companies such as the municipalities and the recycling guys. So it actually has to be solved, whereby every day you will notice somebody wasting a lot of water or wasting or dumping something illegally.
Yeah.
But currently we don't actually have a platform whereby you could report such cases to. And you probably will end up having to call fire brigade or the police who are not actually qualified or having the right jurisdiction to help you deal with that. So in actual fact, there is a big requirement from our side as government as well to speed up on that cleanliness of our city by making it easier for people to monitor their neighbors and other individuals who are wasting, and also somehow sell the idea to people why it's important for us to keep the environment clean.
Just to get back to the Paris Agreement, how important is it, or what will it do for Namibia if we manage to host the African Regional Office for the Green Climate Change Fund? What does it mean for us? What are the pros that we perhaps can look forward to? Because the president goes all the way to New York to try and throw his weight behind the country to host the AR office. I mean, there should be some sort of a pro and some sort of importance, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. You can look at it from a social, economical, and political perspective. One thing is that we do know that Africa is going to be most impacted by climate change, as we explained earlier, due to the financial and other reasons.
Yeah.
And the world right now is trying to leapfrog from fossil fuel-based energy production into
true.
cleaner technology.
Cleaner technology, yeah.
And Africa has the most potential and resources in doing so, from the hydro to the sun and so forth. Now, in terms of if we get this climate change secretariat, it also means that Namibia is taking the first step and also being an ambassador towards the climate change and championing it in Africa. So we will be leading by example. It'll translate over into our government introducing policies that show that Namibia is actually a climate change champion. And that should inspire the rest of our African neighbors, such as South Africa, who are actually producing a lot of carbon emissions. They alone, they produce more than the entire Southern African region alone. So those guys consume about 50,000 megawatts of electricity.
Yeah.
Namibia is only at around 600. So in terms of the social benefit of why we'll get this climate change deal, it's also the employment benefit.
The employment benefits,
Yes.
yeah. Because I'm looking at setting up an office, you know, the yada yada reason is so small. Your final words, Deon, especially from the flagship program by President Obama, Young African Leaders Initiative, championing and you know, spreading the message about Earth Day and the importance thereof, especially when it comes to climate change. Your final words, Deon.
Well, my final word would be to the youth out there. It's time that we start looking at things from a rational perspective. And it is totally up to us to be fighting for the country that we want to inherit. I will take a typical example of the land issue. Many youths are fighting that we need land,
Yes.
and we need housing and such, which is totally fair. I do not disagree with that. But it would be contradicting the same land we want if we do not include climate change into part of our agenda. We've got to not only fight to get the land, but we've got to fight to protect the land. Because Namibia is already 23% classified as a desert, and desertification is going to keep expanding. The agricultural dimension of the land issue is also going to be impacted by climate change. Then you're going to inherit a piece of land that is barren and cannot be used. We do not want that. And also, we want to make sure that our future is secured because climate change solutions are cut through. They cut through all the sections, from
Yes.
water to energy, for example. And it's up to us as young people to take this issue really serious and prepare our future for ourselves, because the future droughts and the future blackouts will not be experienced by the current policymakers. It will be experienced by us and so forth.
As a matter of fact, I'm challenging our listeners just to do a bit of reading on Earth Day, as well as what is it that we are celebrating, what is it that we are fostering for, what is it that we are pushing for you to understand the seriousness of climate change and how it affects you, the ordinary person right now, en route to work. Deon Shekuza, thank you very much. My flagship program of President Obama's Young African Leaders Initiative. Your chat with our chat this morning, I'm sure, inspired a lot of young people to jump on the bandwagon and also to try and educate themselves with the matters of the world.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. And I shall encourage some young people to join the Yali Network. It's a diverse network of young positive agents who are trying to transform the continent. And we cover several issues. This month we are covering the Earth Day, under the Yali Goes Green. So I'd encourage young people to go out there. Information is available. Don't waste your time, because you never know when you'll be taken from this earth. So you got to leave something behind for the future generations.
Deon, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you
Great.
for having me.
In the big cities, the villages.